This is the approach up to Indian Mountain. Hopefully this will be not interrupted by the AA meeting, which is about to begin next door. I'm going to go ahead and read the third little trail entry that I made. It's written last night, just some observations on fellow hikers and the nature of through hiking. I will call this one Faces of the Trail, Cascade Locks to Trout Lake. I don't know if anyone really cares that I'm just sharing my thoughts and, ideas and whatnot, but it's kind of what I do with my Facebook, and my family and friends seem to enjoy that, so what the heck. I'm in this lovely little meditation garden. There's a stream nearby. I'm going to be spending the night in the town of Trout Lake, and here are my thoughts written last night. Faces of the Trail, Cascade Locks to Trout Lake. After enjoying an afternoon, night, and leisurely morning with quite a few friends at the annual PCT Days hiker reunion and festival in Cascade Locks, which warmed my heart as well as replenished the food bag, I headed up the mountain for the next northward push. About 14,000 feet of cumulative elevation gain over the next 3 days, hovering in the 1,000 to 5,000 foot range. Quite a few introductions were made at the gathering, faces I'm seeing again on trail. Crossing over into Washington is an experience not to be forgotten. The Bridge of the Gods is a grandiloquent name, but the structure itself and placement fully rise to the occasion. At the base of the bridge, on the Oregon side, you may find several fresh food vendors selling fish, fruit, and nuts. I stopped at the fruit stall and purchased 1 pound of delicious cherries. The shop owner gives all hikers a road blessing peach or 2 if you purchase anything from her. I snacked on peach slices and cherries for the next 5 miles. The bridge... I didn't write very clearly. The bridge itself dates from the 1930s, if I remember rightly. A massive steel affair, the surface is a construct of semi-open diamonds, heavily textured for grip by tire. You can look down between your feet as you travel and view the water below. A toll is taken according to number of axles on all vehicles that pass. Pedestrians travel free. Left town at around noonish, camped 2,500 feet up at a peaceful campsite 10 miles in. I set no alarm on trail, but wake naturally around sunrise. Began hiking next day around 7 a.m. Over the next few hours, began seeing faces from Thunder Island, the hikers' only PCT Days designated camping area, in the middle of the river. Unfortunately, an event of this sort inevitably creates a bit of a bubble. Hoping to mitigate this somewhat, many departed after one night, hoping to distance by 30 to 50 miles from the festival's end departure. A sight about 20 miles ahead had caught my eye as evening's repose. About 5 miles in, I fell into conversation with a lovely gentleman from the Netherlands. A congenial, interesting, and uplifting day followed. Up to this point, Jimmy 10,000, the fellow's name, had hiked the trail with 2 friends, Ula, a Polish immigrant, and Hobbs, Jimmy's yin and yang counterpart. Hobbs had detoured for 2 nights to Portland to explore, so I as yet lacked the pleasure of this gentleman's acquaintance, but Jimmy and Ula, trail name Asthmatic Bear, proved the most agreeable of companions. The first full day out proved easier than expected, full pack notwithstanding. Instead of stopping at my 20-mile initial goal, the 3 of us pushed on to a highly reviewed campground at mile 25 from Day's starting point. It turns out we had camped within a quarter mile of each other that morning. 25 miles is my single day's distance record for this trip thus far. A hearty dinner, some sketching, and conversation ensued at camp. We agreed to hike on together the next day, and a campsite was mutually agreed upon, about 24 miles distant, elevation gain cumulative 6,000 feet. The day's terrain felt more strenuous to me than that preceding, with a final uphill push at the end. But 49 miles in 2 days, after 1.5 weeks on trail, swept along with veteran hikers coming from the Mexican border, isn't too bad, I think. The quality conversation with Jimmy and Ula really helped me lose track of the time while walking. Both have very positive, considerate, well-informed, and interesting outlooks on life. Book recommendations, stories, favorite films, school and life experiences, global politics, travel, and personal paths were all discussed. During a leisurely lunch break, I was introduced to 4 other hikers. One bore the rather portentous name of Mountain God. He quite looked the part, maybe 60, long white hair and beard, well over 6 feet, trim. Yes, it fit. It turns out he's quite a friendly and humble soul who acquired the name about 30 years ago. After names were exchanged, Mountain God asked me and another new face if we would like to hear how he acquired his name. This seems to be a familiar precaution. After a few hikers of the strong personality persuasion came away with the wrong first impression. One young man went so far as to respond, "Well, I'm Big Dick Dave. Nice to meet you." Over the course of his adventurous life, Mountain God worked as a mountaineering and climbing guide, a profession which paid the bills when family was just establishing. One morning his 5-year-old was asking Mom detailed questions about what Dad did for work. She ended with, "I'm not sure, honey. Go and ask your father." 15 minutes later, the boy returns to the kitchen and says that he understands now. His dad is a mountain god. Son followed father's footsteps, and it became a family joke. 2 consecutive 25-mile days left me quite bushed at day's end. Happy and pleased to know I could jump into the full thru-hiker daily grind again, but I lacked energy to do more than eat and go to sleep by the time camp was made. I remember this routine well. I've hiked about 2,000 miles in the past 5 years, and when you wish to enjoy the company of friends, you simply push on to the agreed meeting places, fatigue be damned, so you don't lose each other. It was quite interesting to spend 2 days in the routine and operating in the mindset of time is of the essence, fastest possible border tag, to finish the hike is everything, hardcore mode again. I decided I simply wasn't up for a 3rd day. Jimmy, Ula, and I had breakfast together, then they started off for a 24-mile walk with a brutal climb at day's end, and a 13-mile hitch into town. I have quite enough food to slow down and enjoy an extra night. South of Trout Lake, my next resupply point. My knees are a bit stiff after the past 3 days climbing, and frankly, I simply don't feel like pushing that hard. Walking from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. is a little more than I'm up for just at present. I want energy to draw, read my books, and write at day's end. Set today's goal for 18.5. Climb into town will be made tomorrow morning. If I make it in early enough, I'll get together with Jimmy and Ula for breakfast. Having had opportunity to exchange trail talk over the past few days with quite a few fellow trekkers, I'd like to set down some observations on the thru-hiker mindset, as encountered among northbound hikers on the final leg of their journey. Just my observations for whatever they are worth. Many are quite fatigued by this point, body's resources having been drained somewhat by a rather haphazard nutritional intake and months of sustained exertion, but they push on regardless, attaining the day's objective with miles covered or future days' projections as the primary topic of conversation. Many have rather strict, self-imposed deadlines. Pitching camp early, say at 4 o'clock, my preferred time, and walking less than 20 miles is viewed as something to feel quite guilty about. I remember this from my trail months spent in 2016 through California and part of Oregon. Phrases such as, "Okay, back to work," or "back to the grind, it's almost over." This idea seems to be somewhat bittersweet. Most are a bit fatigued and sore, but still sorry for it to end, for the routines of daily life to reassert. Definitely a touch of the competitive, don't be left behind, challenge to the limit mindset, which is probably what it takes to carry such a project as this out to its successful conclusion. Much mutual encouragement, which is a beautiful thing. Differing approaches to timing. Some rise early, like me, walk in the morning mist, pitch camp early and nab as many hours as possible of horizontal evening R&R. This approach generally nets you supreme free choice when it comes to campsites. Others sleep in and camp around dark, though in busy times site choice is definitely limited. I'm here with a somewhat different goal. The 1.8 ounces this book weighs is a burden I gladly bear. The time to read, draw, walk quietly through the woods and listen to nature or an audiobook is what I treasure. 400 miles roughly remain. I have the projection of fair weather until mid-September, beginning of October. One really does have supreme free choice as to how one proceeds. I think I'll find a median. If cold sets in and resupply options in rural northern Washington necessitate, I'll pick up the pace and let the distance waves sweep me forward. If weather and food stock permit, I'll migrate at a leisurely pace, say 20 miles per day, with plenty of time for sketching and natural observations. We are so very free. It's a beautiful place to be. We are here by choice, breathing fresh air, making friends, associating with those from all around the world. Everyone is exactly where they've chosen to be, doing what they most wish to do. That's a recipe for a good social environment.